Hi, welcome to That's So Nova. If this is your first time, welcome. If you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. Today we're going to be making the Celeste East West Bag from Oro Rosa. The Celeste East West Bag is a mid-sized bag that boasts with 2 handle options in length, 3 credit card slots, 2 zipper pockets, and 2 slip pockets. The main compartment is very large, so it can carry all your essential phone, such as your phone, keys, chapsticks, wallet, whatever. So it does have a drop-in lining. It has a great feature where it has it's a not a closed feature, it's more of a aesthetic feature where you can use a I was gonna say lobster class and a half-inch D-ring, but there are some people in the testing group that use like a big circle ring. I've seen people use different things to use this as an accent piece. Let your imagination run wild and have fun. So there is this beautiful feature here. You can have a chance to use some elegant features to make this bag different. There is a slip pocket, another slip pocket. There's credit card pockets, there's zipper pockets, and this huge pocket. There's going to be a really cool way that the lining comes together, as well as you're going to have this really elegant side features. There are 2 options for handles. I personally like the smaller one. It's just so elegant, but the larger one is great if for over your shoulder. This bag is going to be perfect for absolutely anyone and everyone. So let's get started. If you don't have the pattern, please go into the description box or look at the pin comment down below. There is an affiliate link that you can hit and it'll take you to the pattern, and when you purchase it, I get a small kickback. If you already bought the pattern, no worries. If you're like, Shinova, you gave me so many tips during this video and you were so like your comedic timing was so on point, I want to buy you a cup of coffee. Look in the description box. I do have a Ko-fi if you do want to do that. No pressure. So grab your pattern, grab some popcorn, grab your favorite thing to drink, and let's get sewing. Hello, so we're doing the Celeste East and West bag by Oro Rosa. So this bag has a lot of interesting components, and I think it comes together relatively quickly, and I really like the shape of it. It's just a very classic bag to walk around with. This bag it's a mid-sized bag, but it has 2 handles, 3 card slots, a zipper pocket with 2 slip pockets. So you can carry your chapstick, your cell phone, your keys, all of your good essentials. And it does have a drop-in lining. So there's a lot of construction to this bag when it comes to prepping it. So make sure you follow all of Alexis's prepping. The prepping is key. If you are here for an Oro Rosa video, then you're not new to this. You do need to prep. Prepping is key to making sure that you have everything right. Okay, so then there's the anatomy of the bag. That is one of my favorite things that Alexis does, so that way you can see how the bag is put together, so you can pick out your favorite fabrics and prints and go from there. So we're gonna mosey on down to page 17. So 1 through 7 is pretty much prep, cutting charts, all that stuff. So at this point, we're already on page, we're not on page 17, we're on figure 10, which you already fused everything. So we're going to be dealing with the strap details. So for the straps, we're going to do generally what we do best. We're going to take our straps, remove the double-sided tape. If my double-sided tape wants to come apart, and we're going to fold and leave 1/8 of an inch in the middle, so that way it can fold on itself without having any bulge. Now, when I hear people say that their straps come out a little wonky, make sure you're not pulling it in an opposite direction. Just press it to its natural direction. When you start over manipulating it, that's when you get those unsavory wonky straps. Okay. Now we're going to fold it in half onto itself. You can feel free to add clips here. And then we're going to sew 1/8 of an inch down each side, and you're going to back stitch well at the beginning and the end. And unlike me, you need to hold on to your tails. I promise you, I always seem to forget to do that. If it doesn't happen in the beginning, I feel like the bag will be cursed. I'm locking in the stitches with about 2 back stitches. All right, and then I'm just going to hop over a few stitches, and then I'm going to go down 1/8 of an inch on the other side. All right, I'm going to trim those threads and trim any little excess, you know, like sometimes you get a little bit of overage. I like to make them nice and flat, and then you should do that with your other one, and you should have 2 lovely straps. Now we're going to kind of do the same thing with your the strap detail, except you're just going to fold it and you're going to butt up the 2 ends close together, and you're going to sew 1/8 of an inch all the way down, and you're going to have this nice long strap. Okay, so we're gonna, there's 5 packs. As you can see, this comes together relatively fast. There's going to be 5 packs that we have that is going to determine how fast we make this bag. And once you see how fast everything kind of comes together, you're going to be whipping this out for everybody that you know, because this bag is going to definitely be a hit for the spring and summer. So we're going to grab the Celeste bag, pack 1, and we're going to work on the bottom. The bottom has a really cool, interesting way, and like I said, I always admire how Alexis always keeps us on our toes. The bottom has, you have your exterior piece, there's a foam piece, your Decaville light, another foam piece, and then we put a woven inner piece to keep the foam in, and you can see it kind of has this really cool triangle look. So from here, we're going to follow figure 22, and there's a measurement on step 8 that we need to measure in, and then we need to measure on from the short ends, and then we need to measure from down on the long ends. Once you have that, you need to punch holes, and you can see I just kind of made like a crosshair. Once we measure that, we're going to grab a purse foot or purse feet. After you punch the holes, put it through, thread it through, and then I'm going to grab a washer. And I'm just going to like fold this out as flat as it could possibly can. I'm going to grab some electrical tape. You can use duct tape. After I'm done with this electrical tape, I'm going to buy some Gorilla duct tape, because I hear that that is like the best to use. I've had this electrical duct tape for kind of many years. You've probably seen it in a lot of videos. It doesn't really go anywhere, so try and true. Then we're going to retrieve one of, you could retrieve a handmade tag. It's optional if you do or you don't have one. She gives a measurement about 2 1/4 of an inch up in the center. And as you can see, I took one of my Heartwood and Hide logos and I sewed it on. If you have a metal tag, you can use it. Or if you have a fabric tag, you can put it into the lining when we do the lining part. There's no wrong or right way of doing it. Just do whatever feels right to you. So we have the top, which if you prepped right, you'll see that that has that straight edge that we had drew. And then this has like the more curvature of the stabilizer. We have the top and the bottom. So we're going to place the top. I mean, the top's going to go out, especially if you have directional fabric. And we're going to place the bottom to the wrong. We're going to play right sides together with the bottom. The bottom of the bag with the main panel, and we're just going to make sure they go the correct ways. Right sides together, the top should be going away from you, and you should see the bottom connected to the bottom. I'm going to place a couple clips so nothing shifts or moves while I'm sewing. Sometimes that happens, you know. All right, and we're going to sew this with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Back stitch really well. I usually go 2 steps, 2 stitches in, and then I stitch back just to really lock it in. And there goes my ruler. Okay, so we're going to trim just the bottom piece, not the top panel, the bottom piece down to 1/8 of an inch. Make sure you do not accidentally trim into your stitches. So just be careful. And then, as you can see, I kind of have my scissors at an angle. If you have duckbill scissors, if you're an embroiderer, this will be the time to whip out those tools because it works. See how you can still see the top panel? So then we're going to put some double-sided tape along this area. I'm using 1/8 of an inch. We're going to remove the double-sided tape, so just make sure you press it down. And we're going to press this down. You can use a seam roller, your fingers, whatever you feel comfortable with. Then we're going to top stitch this at 1/8 of an inch onto the bottom panel. Lock that stitch in. Okay, let's do that again. We're going to grab our other top panel, its top exterior panel, and we're just going to center our centers. The most important part of bag making, period, is finding your centers. If you take the time to do that to every piece, you'll find out that bag making becomes a little bit more easier, a fun process, because everything will line up and match up for you. So we're going to sew this at 3/8 of an inch. Two steps forward and back stitch. Sometimes I even back stitch like 1 stitch off the fabric and they come on, so that there's no weird separation from the fabric. Sometimes I get that. And I learned if I just back stitch a little bit off and come back on, it just works like a charm. All right. Trim those tails, and then we're going to do the same thing we just did. We're going to trim the bottom panel. I was almost trying to do the top. The bottom panel only to 1/8 of an inch, not getting into the stitches. Grabbing our double-sided tape. Using the double-sided tape from Wawa. Wawa? I always say it wrong. Oh my gosh. And you know what drives me absolutely mad is whenever I call up there, they automatically say my name correct. So I should be able to say this name correct, but it looks like Waywack to me. But they have really awesome customer service, and I love their double-sided tape. When it's not sticking to itself, there was like a bad batch, but this new one I just got doesn't seem to be sticking so far to itself. So we're gonna take that seam and make sure it lays down in the correct way, and we're gonna stitch 1/8 of an inch. Okay, so we have our exterior panels and our exterior base all sewn on, and now we're going to be getting some double-sided tape, and we're going to be doing some trimming and everything. So we're going to first trim these sides so that way we can reduce some bulk. Just like do a little snip, not into your stitches, of course, or into the fabric, just removing this excess amount of bulk. And if you didn't cut your tails, this is a perfect opportunity to do that. Right? So what we're going to do is we're going to use, we're going to draw 1 inch, a 1-inch line. And the 1-inch line, we're going to put our double-sided tape right here. If you drew it the 1-inch line with the instructions, then you're good to go. If not, then draw that 1-inch line now. That's where your stabilizer should be at. I told you those instructions beforehand help tremendously. Okay. Now we're going to be doing a little bit of folding. We're going to align our seams. So we're going to grab a couple of clips and just align our seams. So we're going to make sure our seam allowance, our seams are matching. So I'm going to put a couple clips. So just really make sure, so like seam to seam, they're matching. Take your time. If this takes you a little bit, it's fine. You have all the time in the world. And practice makes progression. Okay. We're going to stitch only the bottom panel piece down at 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to come over here and I'm only going to stitch down the bottom panel piece. I'm just going to also clip this on the top so that nothing pops out. Okay. So stitching this down, only the bottom panel piece at 1/8 of an inch. We're basting it. Okay. And we're going to do that on this side as well. All right. All right. So now we're going to put right sides together. We're going to just poke this out real quick. It's kind of like a French seam. If you ever done garment making, it's very similar. We're gonna clip it. I like to clip on the top so that way I can make sure that everything aligns as best as I can. Okay, so with this we're going to take this and take the fold where it naturally folds in and put it sandwiched in between. So see how it naturally folds? We're going to sandwich it in between. And this takes a little clips, a little finagling around, but you got this. Make sure all the raw edges like meet. And then we are going to sew this and drop our pattern piece, pattern at 3/8 of an inch. And then we're going to sew this at, where'd it go? 3/8 of an inch. If you're doing this on a domestic, if this area is a little bulky, you could use like a hump jumper or use some fabric, like you stack a little bit of fabric and use it, or a walking foot. Okay, we're going to trim our threads. All right, so we're going to do a reinforced stitch that is right beside it, but just in where the where this base is. So it's going to be right next to it. So back stitch. And you can draw with a pen where to stop and start if it makes it easy, but you can kind of see where it goes from like being like 4 layers to 2. And then once that's done, you're going to trim. So you're going to trim where it is like half of this. And then you're going to trim your seam allowance. See how you leave a little, so when we fold this down for the drop-in lining that you can open this up. Okay, we're going to do it again on this side. We're going to take this part where the little triangle is, and we're going to just poke it through. We're going to make sure all the raw edges you can see so nothing is left behind. I think the hardest part of this is doing your first clip because you just want to make sure everything is aligned. And after you get that first clip on, it becomes easier. So just get that first clip on and then just keep on gently tugging it so all the raw edges are up and visible, so there will be no raw edges on the exterior. All right, so we're going to do this again. We are going to sew 3/8 of an inch. Remember that back stitching. Okay. And then we're going to do that reinforced stitch right beside it. Make sure you back stitch. And that just makes sure when we get to this next step and you see how cool the exterior looks, that it just keeps its shape and it just looks really good. So we're going to cut about a 1/2 inch in, and then we're going to go down and just trim. Make sure you don't trim into your stitches, so you want like 1/8 of an inch, but all right. You got it all trimmed up. And then we're going to turn the exterior right sides out. And you're just aligning everything and poking out corners. This is going to be so cute. All right. I've had this fabric literally forever, so I'm so happy that I could finally utilize it. I think I've had it for like either 5 or 6 years. And see the detail, like you have like this nice like envelope style, and for this you want to just like let it relax and give it a little time, and it will just naturally fold on itself. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this double-sided tape right now to fold over. So we're going to fold over to the line that is drawn. And then I'm going to pull back this other double-sided tape. And that's why we left that just 1/2 inch, so that way everything folds over nicely and nothing has like a weird bulkiness that we couldn't address. And you could definitely leave clips, especially if you're using like a thinner double-sided tape. Definitely, like, not thinner, but like a less, not a hyper stick or something like along those lines. You can definitely use clips just to hold everything down while we start making the interior, so it doesn't just keep lifting up and you're like, hey, what's going on? So for me, the most bulkiest part are the corners, these 2 corners. So I'm just gonna put them on, but feel free to put them around the whole entire bag if you wish. Do what makes you feel comfortable. So as we do this, we're going to move this aside and we're going to start working on the interior of the bag. All right, so the first thing we're going to make is the credit card slot. All right, with the credit card slot, you need the credit card slot backing, the credit card slot itself, and we need 2 of the mirror images, 1 set of the mirror images of PC. So you should have like a set that looks like this. All right. On the credit card slot, there on figure 51 and figure 52, you should grab the longest piece. There are measurements that you're going to first measure in, draw the line to. I'm not able to give the numbers out just for the pattern's sake. And then the second one, once you have the first one done, I usually use like a hot ruler, and I put that under, and you're going to fold it over to the wrong side. You're going to press it really well. When that's done, I like to flip it to the pretty sides and then put my hot tool ruler here. And then I try to get the line. Now, the thing is don't use a heat erasable pen because it'll be all for naught. So as you can see, I have a bright hot pink line so you guys can see it. I usually use a pencil because the pencil can't bleed through, but for the sake of the video, I'm using a pen so you can see it, because you'll be like, no, I don't see the lines. So I use this, and then I flip this back this way and press it this way. Because I'm using a water resistant canvas, if I iron it on the wrong side, it will it'll melt, and it will kind of like ruined my hot iron, and then I would have to, there's so much cleaning and smelling like burnt plastic. It's not worth it. So I do it on this side, so that way I can get my credit card pocket. All right, so it should look like this, like what you see on figure 56. And we are going to then fold it like you see on figure 57. And we're going to sew on step 13, figure 59. We're going to top stitch 1/8 of an inch. We're going to top stitch the 2 folds down. Just through the folds. I always backstitch. Okay. And then I'm just going to find this and only top stitch on the folds. Trust the process. There's always a rhyme and a reason. All right. All right. So we have our credit card slots. I'm trying to find my chalk pen. All right. So then we're going to measure in we're going to measure in the first set of perpendicular lines, which is going to be 2 3/4. And it's only going to the first credit card slot. So I hope you can see with this pink chalk pen against this purple. I couldn't find my white one today, and I think it is disappeared. So we have all right. And then from the perpendicular line, we're going to draw 2 3/4 again. All right. So we're going to lift up the back panel and we are going to sew on these lines. Backstitch well at the beginning and end. I love when she does this because it utilizes the card slot in more ways, like with slip pockets, and it just, you get more room and more bang for your buck with the fabric. And you're stopping right at the first top of the credit card slot. All right. We are going to fold now this credit card slot onto itself. And we're going to sew it at 3/8 of an inch. You can clip it in place. Make sure you backstitch well at the beginning and end because you are kind of doing like a mini berth. Okay, we're going to trim. I'm trimming down to about 1/8 of an inch. And then we're going to berth this real quick, or quick as you can, or quick as you want to. And then you can use a turning tool of some sorts, a chopstick or a bone folder, whatever you have. Just make sure it's not something sharp that can poke a hole through your item. And then you can give it a good press, and you have this. So then we're going to grab our credit card slot backing, and we're going to measure up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw where we're going to measure up from. And I'm just going to draw a chalk line. And so that way I can place my card slot directly on that chalk line. This is why I have a big love for chalk pencils, because one, they don't usually stay, and two, they're not really visible if you try to use something that kind of matches the fabric that you have. So I'm going to clip this here. All right, we're going to put base, we're going to top stitch this in place at 1/8 of an inch. Make sure you, I kind of do like a back tack on each slot like that is there, just so it doesn't like fold over. Okay. All right. So we're going to place these on here, and we're going to sew at 3/8 of an inch. And this is where like cute little tags can come in, because you could place them in between, and they could just be something that's really charming to your bag, adding that extra, something extra sweet. And what we're going to do is we're going to, we sewed at 3/8 of an inch. We're going to trim only this piece that we just sewn on, not the card slots, to 1/8 of an inch. And we're going to then kind of finger press and top stitch on that piece at 1/8 of an inch. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing on this side. With these kind of pieces, I just like to clip on the top and the bottom once I found the raw edges, and just sew the 3/8 of an inch, back stitch well. Okay, and then we're going to trim this down to 1/8 of an inch. Okay, and we are going to top stitch at 1/8. This is super cute. We're done with our credit card. See, you have a nice big slip pocket. You have 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm counting 4. You have 3 credit card slots, and then you have a nice big slip pocket. Okay, then we're about to make our zipper slip pocket, which I'm a big fan of. Oh, sorry, we forgot to do this. We're gonna trim the excess at an angle just at the seam allowance part, so that way it can reduce bulk. Anything, you know, just because you can sew over bulk does not mean you should. Gives you that nice professional finish. All right, so you have your zipper pocket lining. You need to have the zipper pocket lining right sides up, and you need to have your zipper tape here. You need to baste your zipper tape on using 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. So your zipper tape should be about 1/2 inch longer on each side. So just make sure you have the correct piece on. Lining, not the exterior piece, but the lining. Baste that on at about 1/8 of an inch. Okay. We're going to grab the zipper backing. And you're going to, I like row all the pieces on the back of it. It just helps me. So if you're that kind of person too, then go for it. If you're using a zipper backy that has directional, there is an arrow on figure 84 to show you how you will want it right sides up. You will need to put this piece on here, right sides together, and then you're going to sew this with 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay. So what you see on figure 88 is the same thing. We're going to wrap this seam allowance. See, this is the seam allowance we just had. We're going to wrap this around. When you wrap it around, if you take the seam that we just drew, the 3/8 of an inch, and you wrap it around, it's going to give you a nice clean edge. So just take your time and just wrap it around. And you can clip. There's no shame in the clip game. I'm going to make that a t-shirt. And I'm just feeling it. You can feel the difference because you have 2 layers of fabric and zipper tape. You should definitely feel the that seam allowance, so 3/8 of an inch. And you can see it. I'm just taking it, putting it up, and wrapping this around. And we're going to first. I'm going to top stitch it 1/8 of away from the zipper tape, and then 1/8 of an inch away from the zipper edge. And when you're away from the zipper tape like this, just to help you out, I'm from right here, I'm exactly at 3/8 of an inch. So when I'm top stitching 1/8 of an inch on here, away from the zipper tape, it is 3/8 of an inch. So I'm following that 3/8 of an inch line all the way. Okay, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to top stitch right on the edge. So I'm going to line this up with my 1/8 of an inch line. And if that's easier for you to start with the 1/8 of an inch, go for it. Do what's easier for you. Nobody's in your workroom telling you what to do. Do what's easier for you. All right. Cool. All right. So now we're going to separate the opposite side. I know you guys hate this. So let me hit this with some fire. We need people to come out with like cute lighters for us. With like cute sayings like singe this or what the singe. So we're going to line this up. Again, you want to line this up where it's going to be a 1/2 inch on each side. But you should basically see the center because it's going against this. So just clip that up. Okay. All right, so we're going to move this out of the way and we're going to base this on at 1/8 of an inch. Okay, got all those tails, and then we want to get our zipper front pocket. And again, if you have directional, she shows you which direction you're going to do it. We're going to place this right sides together. It's easier for me to line it up this way. And we're going to sew this together at 3/8 of an inch. Back stitch. Okay, so we're going to turn this pocket right sides. Kind of just finger press it because we're going to top stitch this at 1/8 of an inch. You know how like this seam always likes to kind of sink in itself. So like my trick for this is to make sure that the seam doesn't sink is I put my needle down and then I back stitch off and then I back stitch on. And then I make sure that the zipper teeth are poked out. This is how I make sure. If you're sewing at 1/8 of an inch, your zipper teeth should be lined up with your 3/8 of an inch mark. If it's lined up, then you're exactly where it needs to be. If it's at 1/4 of an inch or scant 3 of an inch, that means your zipper tape is kind of rolled into that seam allowance and you need to kind of shift your fingers to pull out this. Just a tip. All right. So we're going to do some things. we top stitched. We moved the layers. We're going to connect these. Because this is gonna, we're gonna connect these, and it's gonna look like this for real quick. It's gonna look awkward, but it's all gonna make sense. I promise you. So give me a second. Let me connect this real quick. Oh, that was off like 100%. Sorry. I hate when it's off by like one tooth or something and you're just like, come on. Some zipper teeth are easier to get right the first time than others. And it also depends on the zipper pull too. Some zipper pulls are just, they give a little bit more and they're not as stiff. I do notice that I think something about the antique, I don't know if it's like the material or what it is. So we're going to lift up, we're going to have this, you see the right side of this, we're going to lift up this skirt. And we're going to draw 3/8 of an inch on both sides of this. I had a pen. I know I had a pen. Yep. This is Shinova. Day in the life. Loses absolutely everything extremely fast. I'm just going to use this chalk pen real quick. You know what's funny? Probably when we go to the rivet section, that's where all my pins are going to be. All right, so we're going to sew. We're not going to go past this ledge. If you do so, you're going to regret it. So just trust me on this. The little hole that you may see, nobody will see and nothing will be able to go through it. And if you feel that like, oh my God, there is a small hole, you can always like put some fabric glue there, but I guarantee you nothing will go through it. So we're going to lock in the stitch. Okay. And we're going to do it on this side too. We're going to do it on this side, 3/8 of an inch. Don't go past that ledge. I know it's tempting. All right, so we're going to cut this at 1/8 of an inch. And now, don't go into your stitches. I'm just going to go cut across where the ledge is. All right. So we're going to drop this back down. And we are going to kind of position this to where these pieces line up. So just, this is just a little finagling. So you're just going to figure out how do these line up the best. And then once you got it, clip it. I'm going to start on this side. We're going to sew it at 3/8 of an inch. You should have approximately about 1 inch if I'm not mistaken. About 1 inch. Oops. Yeah. 1 inch for the border on the top for your slip pocket. My clips don't want to clip. Okay. Let's sew it at 3/8 of an inch. Backstitch really well at the beginning and the end. And for the sake of the zipper, I'm just going to backstitch over the zipper a couple times just because it's a zipper and I want to create that zipper stop. And we're going to do the same thing as we did at the other pocket. We're going to trim. And then we're going to fold and top stitch onto the actual pattern C. And take all your clips with you. It's how it rolls. Clips just are like, here, I'm here for you. And then I'm doing the same thing. I'm going to clip in place. And I'm going to sew at 3/8 of an inch. Back stitching, back stitching, back stitching. All right, did not cut the tails on here. And then top stitch. All right, then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to trim the seam allowance at the angle. Make sure you don't accidentally cut into the stitches or it's all for naught. Okay. All right, so we're going to get started on construction of the zipper panels, and this is this is number 4. So you're going to need your panels, and you're going to need your zipper tape. So let's start with the panels first. So you interface, and if you interface correctly, you should have a space in between. You need to put some double-sided tape there. You're going to then remove the double-sided tape, and you're going to wrap it around your stabilizer. So it should come up, I believe it should come up like almost a 1/2 inch, close to it, not quite. Yeah, 1/2 inch. So just wrap that around, and then I am a person that is creasing. This is a pretty interesting way. So Alexis' way is to take your zipper, and she wants you to singe it. So you're going to take it straight and kind of fold it down onto itself. So you're going to fold it, and you're going to take, when it bends, you're going to take this angle and push it down so that this same material can be up here. It's going to be kind of at a 90-degree angle. And let me put this pin in here so you can see what I'm talking about, because my chubby fingers, you won't be able to see everything. So you can see how it folds here and that it's nice and clean there. But at this angle, you can see the burrs. So what she does is she likes to use fire. Don't do this at home, kids. So you're going to singe it and smush it. It's quite cool. I should enter a Gandalf quote when he, Lords of the Ring, when he tells Frodo, stick out your hand. It's quite cool. Okay, never mind. Is spurn it and then you singe it. And when you remove the pin, ta-da, you have a perfect piece. All right. So what we're going to do here is once you bend this, we're going to be clipping this in place. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mark my center, because sometimes I can't see my center with vinyl no matter how much I crease it unless I actually cut it. So I'm going to take some clips You're going to be like, Shnova, why not use double-sided tape? We use double-sided tape. Trust the process. Trust it. I know we get used to doing things a certain way and then we get stuck and we're like, no, I like to do it this way. But the thing is, each designer comes out with something new every time. And sometimes the designer who got you hooked onto low-key using double-sided tape for everything sometimes switches it up to keep you on your toes. And it's cool. All right, so we're going to put that there. And I think that's the one thing I appreciate being a tester is that I don't do any modifications and I follow the pattern, and it's always super fun because it becomes a new challenge, a new way that I can learn. And I don't know about you, but it's kind of like the day that I stop learning is probably going to be the day that I stop being around because it won't be fun anymore. All right. We got it. So we're going to sew this together at 3/8 of an inch. So you see all raw edges are together. Back stitch well. All right, so we have this all done. So now we're going to get into some trimming. So if you look at page, if you look at figure 26, you kind of see this spread out like this. The first thing we're going to trim are these sides. We're going to kind of go in and we're going to trim at an angle, but we're still keeping that fold. So you're not trimming into the fold part, but just some of that bulk on the sides. So we're making sure that folds so we don't see raw and exposed. Then we're going to open this and we're going to trim all of this down, not the zipper tape, to 1/8 of an inch. Again, duckbill scissors would be awesome here, but if you do not have them or you misplace them like I do, then 1/8, like slant those scissors. You're going to be good. so we're going to slant these scissors and we're going to separate the zipper tape from the vinyl and not cut into our stitches at the same time. It's hard, but we got this. And we're going to go right here, and I'm just going to pull this back. Maybe not cut so jagged, but it's cool. And we just have our zipper tape. We're going to flip this around, kind of poke that out. And it's going to want to poke out because it has no bulk now. So I kind of like this method with everything trimmed down because I'm not sitting here trying to get a tool to poke everything out. And we're going to then sew down, across, and up. I'm going to back stitch at the beginning and at the end. And with the reduction of bulk, you're not going to have where you're, I don't know if this ever happens to you, where you feel like you're teetering over some bulk and not. It's going to be a nice smooth process. And again, I can't stress this enough. Here's another tip. With this, when you're sewing a 1/8 inch seam allowance, your zipper tape should be hitting that 3/8 of an inch. One. Okay, so now you should have 2 of these bad boys. You did 1, you did 2. Now we're going to start putting the lining together. So we're going to, I always put how the zipper is going to close. So I want my zipper to close to the left. So I always try to pull the one that's going to be closing to the left first. See, this will be closing to the right. So my brain doesn't get all discombobulated. I take this, I'm going to fold this real quick, find my centers, find my center here. All right. And then I'm going to put this together so I know that the zippers are closing the same way. That's all. Sometimes like I have to do little tricks like that for myself, like make sure I do the zipper pocket closure first versus the credit card, because your girl will just like be like, I'm at a loss. So I'm going to base this on 1/8 of an inch. Okay, and then I'm going to get the top trim. We're just going to flip this out of the way. When there's sometimes like multiple layers, I like to clip the beginning and the end, because um, sometimes some vinyl stretches. Like this is kind of like a Mora type vinyl, and it has some stretch to it. It's kind of gummy. That's the best way I can explain it. And if it's going to stretch, then fine. I'm glad it's a straight piece, but I would like to make sure that it can cover everything first. And things are going to stretch, especially if there's no stabilizers in it. But I want to make sure all, like the bulky area, it gets fully covered. Okay. See, and it had a little bit of stretch. It's not even quite 1/4 of an inch, but I'm just going to just trim that part off. All right. And we're going to mosey on to figure 127. We're going to trim the seam allowance. We're only trimming the main lining, this main lining piece that we just did. Not the zipper placket or the slots of any kind, just the lining piece. And as you can see on figure 138, Alexis brought her almighty Thor to like smash down those seams. And definitely do that if you need to. Like, I am here for you if you're doing that. I'm using like thinner, like you can see how thin this more is. So I'm not really concerned about it, but do so if you need to. And when we top stitch, we're going to top stitch across the carts, the lining part, so that way this stays nice and upright and not drooping down. And I love that that everyone's starting to do understitching. It's personally my favorite. One, you can't, if this top stitching looks a little bit wonky, no one really sees it. Two, it just like, I like the way it looks with the zipper panel being nice and up versus looking sad and droopy. All right, we're going to do it again with the other lining piece. Oh, I think we were supposed to draw, sorry, a 1-inch line here. Your girl was slacking. And here's the pen that I was looking for. Okay. Shinova. Okay. Okay, 1/8 of an inch. Okay, and then we're going to sew this at 3/8 of an inch. Back stitching. And see, like this one had like 1/8 of an inch overage. That's it. That's what I'm saying. Some fabrics stretch, some don't. And it's okay. Just always make sure that it's enough. All right. Top stitching. Not top stitching because my bobbin ran out. All right, we're going to top stitch, under stitch. Let's see. Okay. So we're going to do some trimming of some of the side areas. We're going to trim the threads I thought I just trimmed, but apparently not. We're going to trim these angles to reduce some bulk. And you know what? I didn't trim that like I did here. I apologize. You're supposed to trim just the lining top back, and I did not do that. And then let me release this and draw the 1 inch. All right, so we're going to do the trimming, and then we are going to start clipping the main bottom pieces together. I'm going to clip this back together. And just make sure you have everything lined up as best as you can. We're going to clip these together, sew it at 3/8 of an inch. Back stitch really well. I'm glad my bobbin ran out when it did, so that way I don't have to worry about when I'm stop stitching the drop-in lining, because that is always a big concern and my biggest pet peeve. Because it happens to the best of us. All right. So we're going to open up this seam allowance, and we're going to top stitch it down. So I'm going to do one side at a time, and then I call this my pancake method. I start on one side, and then I kind of just keep looking to make sure that seam is down, and I'll just continue to press that seam allowance down and to make sure it stays flat. You could put double-sided tape on it too, so you don't have to do all the extraness. But if you're like, my machine is tired and it's gumming it up, then this is another way you can do it. You can iron it, but I have vinyl and water resistant canvas, and that's a no bueno at this point. All right. So the next thing we need to do is on the wrong side, we need to turn over to the main thing and draw a 3/8 of an inch line on all four sides where the top part is. So I'm gonna just one more time. Sorry, my hair got in the way. Let's see. All right, so we're going to line these up and try to line where the seams are as best as you can. I usually tell people to put like their tightest clip. Sometimes your clips can get a little loose, and that's natural, especially if you make a lot of bags like over time with wear and tear. So like if you have a clip that's particular, like a binder clip or whatever, that's usually what I put on my seams to like when I'm trying to match them so there's no shifting. Put one of your tightest clips on there so that way that clip can keep everything in line. So we're going to sew down to that 3/8 of an inch mark. Back stitch in the beginning and the end. And then I'm going to stop at the 3/8 of an inch mark and then just back stitch a couple stitches. We're going to do the same thing here. All right, I somehow unthreaded my machine. Okay. Then we're going to take the bottom and the sides and we're going to put them together. So we're going to open up the seams. And I'm just going to clip that there, just the side seams. Kind of nestled that right there. I'm always reaching for more clips and they're all underneath my sewing machine. All right, so you're going to have to do the corner in two parts. We're going to sew one here and stop here where your stitches are. And then you're going to do another one and go across. So it's not like one fell swoop. It's two different parts. So we're going to start here at 3/8 of an inch. And we're going to back stitch. And your stitch line should match up to that line that you drew earlier. And that's just trim that stitching, back tails. And then we're going to do it again on this side. Three-eighths of an inch. And you see, it just comes together. It's really cool how, see how it's like, has that same triangle. It's really cool how it works out. It is very inventive, really cool step. So we're going to do it again on this side. See, we have our little woohoo flap. We're going to, I always say, just go from the corner first. Let it collapse naturally where it is. Put a clip. Do it right here too. So you're not trying to finagle it to be in a different shape. Then you're going to match the center with the center. Just clip. Clip. And do some more clips. And just, it's in two parts. You're trying to match that line that you drew, that 3/8 of an inch line, and it should match stitch to stitch. And let's do it on the other side. And then we'll do some trimming. All right, and then we're going to trim the seam allowance to 1/8 of an inch. And we're going to kind of do the same thing. We're going to leave a 1/2 inch and just reduce that bulk. All right. So we're going to put that double-sided tape. Okay, we're almost at the final steps. So we're going to bring our exterior and we're going to get our interior. You need to figure out what side is going to be your front. Generally, I don't put my name tag in the front. You can. It's your bag, do you. You know what I mean? I like to have my zipper pocket on my back. So again, I like to have my zippers close to the left. You're going to take double-sided tape and put it on the raw edge of the part that you folded down. Because remember, we folded this down to match this. And we're just going to do this. So you folded this down just like you folded the exterior down to match that 1-inch seam. And now you put double-sided tape on this part, not above. You can do that, but it's going to gunk up your needles and we're about to do top stitching. So I'm going to just put a clip on the zipper tape so that way it could be out of our way. And then I'm going to first match side seam to side seam. So what this double-sided tape is going to do is keep the bag in place without it maneuvering and shifting. But I'm still going to use 1,000 clips because I'm Nova and I'm going to be a little bit extra. And see, it's sticking, so therefore it's going to be another layer of making sure they don't shift. What I like to do is that with both rolled flat edges, I like to feel with my finger to make sure it's flat. Like one side is not more up more than the other. See like how that doesn't feel even, so you just adjust it so it could be nice and even. Now, because this is a drop-in lining, if your machine is a free arm, so if you have a domestic or a semi-domestic where you can remove the bed of the machine and you have a free arm, you're golden. You can do this with it. If you have an industrial machine or a flatbed machine, you're going to have to sew from the lining. And so what I tell you to do is to always make a sandwich, kind of what they teach you in quilting. So I would get 2 layers of your exterior, 2 layers of your interior, which mine will be literally 4 layers of vinyl. And I will get the scraps of this and see how my bobbin thread is acting with it. I tested mine earlier. I generally trust my bobbin. My tension is always pretty good on it, so it doesn't really never looks bad. It always looks like the top. Also, I'm using a variant thread, the Serene color from Wizardly, and because it has so many colors, it switches and it helps any wonky stitch. If you have an industrial free arm, this is also where you can shine. All right. So we have enough clips to clip the world. We're going to top stitch. We're going to top stitch our bag at 1/8 of an inch. So I'm just going to feed this in. I like to start my bag on a seam, a side seam, and that's where I'm going to back stitch. It's less, to me, like less visible. I don't know. I could be absolutely 100% wrong, but that's how I feel. So 1/8 of an inch. And you know, you see me, I'm kind of squishing the bag, and that's why I like this bag. It's not too, it doesn't have so much stabilizer that it's going to get wrinkled. It's a little bit pliable. So we have a little wiggle room. So also sewing it from the inside is not bad because you can push down the zipper placket. And you can make sure that your lining is not shifting up into the exterior. If you're like me and you hate to see your lining poking out of your exterior, this actually might be what you want to do. Like, just to make sure. Most important part of top stitching is breathing. Please breathe. I know we think if we hold our breath, somehow every stitch is going to be perfect. We're not going to have a hiccup. We're not going to have a split stitch. But I assure you that is not how it works. If it did, I don't know. I think I do the same thing. I also feel like I kind of like clench my jaw. Like that, and that I know that's not the best. You're like, girl, you are squishing your bag. I sure am, and it's gonna be fine. It's all gonna be fine. And that's where that double-sided tape and all these million clips come into play. It's holding it all in place, and you can see the stitching. It's like really, really pretty. So before you do this, like I said, it's 4 layers of vinyl for me, and probably 4 layers for you. Then just get some scraps of the vinyl that you use and see how your bobbin looks on it. You'll be really surprised, and you might be keen on trying more times stitching with more drop-in linings, stitching from your lining side. It's once you try it and you trust your bobbin, it doesn't really phase you. You're not like, oh my god, I only can stitch with my top thread. Once you, it's a very freeing experience actually. And like I said, I love the fact that you have more control over the lining so that you don't see it poking through over your exterior. Okay, we're almost to the end. We have about 2-3 inches. And then I'm just going to trim those threads. And then we're going to go over to the table, and I'm just going to find a marker real quick because we're going to be doing some measuring. And as you can see, the bag is super cute. And we're going to be doing some measuring and marking and all that fun stuff. Okay, I'm going to get this red marker because I think I will be able to see it. All right, so the first thing you're going to do is you're going to get your bag, and we are going to get the rivet markings. So we want to measure 5 inches away from the side seam, but 1/4 of an inch down. Okay. 1 second to get my ruler that I dropped behind my sewing machine, because I wouldn't be Shinova if I didn't. So and take your time, make sure you can get things as even as you can. Measure twice before you make your mark and all that jazz. Right over Patrick. And then I'm going to go on this side. And this is another reason why it's so soft and pliable, because you just want to get accurate numbers. right on Johnny Bravo and Cat Dog. All right, so we're going to be punching holes through that, and trust me, it won't go through any of your parts, but we're going to go and do the same thing here. Right on. I think that's one of the twins, Rugrat twins. It's been a minute. Let's see. And then what I do before I punch the holes is I just go back and I just triple check the dots, because even if the dots are just a little bit off, then it's fine, because that's perfect. You know, that whole measure twice, cut once. All right. So we're going to now punch holes. And I know this is a nerve-wracking part, because you're like, oh my God, I just spent, you know, like 2 hours making this bag. I get it. We're going to punch the holes first here before we punch this. We're going to do a dry fit of this before we punch the holes. Okay? So what I mean by a dry fit is that when we punch the holes, we are going to we're going to dry fit this around everything to make sure that everything fits. If you measure everything and it slightly is off, you might have to make another strap. And it's not the end of the world, but who wants to really make another strap? So what I did is I punched the holes. I might have to re-punch them, because apparently you want to be able to find your centers and where you can mark where to punch. So you can get a really good fit. Think of it as like measuring someone's outfit. Just want to make sure that one by Patrick is And it all depends on your materials. This polyester has like a hard time getting trimmed. I mean, holes poked through. It just seems like it wants to. Stay. I'm just trimming. All right, so we have all the holes poked. So what I mean by a dry fit is this. We're going to go on the wrong side of this, and we're going to find our centers. This is where we are going to get a silver marking pen or chalk pencil, whatever you have that is removable. Oops. All right. So this is the back of this. All right. We want again, thank goodness this thing is super pliable. Okay, we want the center to be up and around. And I'm going to get a clip. This is going to go, if you look at the front of the bag, you see that the bag has the waist, I want to call it a waist bag. You have a band that goes around here with the handles. There are measurements that you can measure and poke ahead of time. You can punch ahead of time. But the problem is that if you measure your bag slightly askew, like 1/4 of an inch off or 1/8, your holes won't match up. So what I recommend is for you to like find something you could do a dry fit, and then you kind of make a mark where your holes should be, and then you poke them. You poke them. Why do I keep saying poke? You punch them. Make sure you don't punch through the stitches. And then you get a perfect fit. So just think of it as like putting on a belt, and you're just taking your time, just finding your centers, always finding your centers. All right. So let's put this aside, and let's start putting this kind of together. First, I want to get my rivets. I'm using medium rivets from Finalizing bag. I need 4 stems, and 4 caps. Oops, there's 1 more cap. I like try not to lose any of the rainbow ones, because you know rainbow hardware is a little bit more expensive because the way it's plated. All right, so the way it goes is this. The belt goes under the strap. So what you want to do is you want to start with the belt first. So you're going to just place these gently over here, and then you're going to grab one of your hardware, one of your handles. Remember, before you put your hardware on, you need to measure 1 inch up before you put your hardware up and punch a hole. If you put your hardware on first, it can add height by anywhere from 1/8 of an inch, or look at this. This is easily 3/4 of an inch. So I'm going to add a stem, thread it through the back of this belt and the back of this. And make sure you're not doing it on the wrong side. It's very easy to do that, especially if you're using a fabric. I'm not going to set any of these until I have all 4 of them in place. If you set them and something doesn't fit, you now have to remove all of them. So just push the cap in manually by hand and not set any of them until you have all 4. Okay. We're going to bring these around and see with the dry fit, we have like the perfect hole matches. There's always method to Shinova's madnesses, okay? Okay. And this goes under too. Perfect fit. Measurements are great, but everybody can get caught up. You see me trying to measure this one more than 3 times. Sometimes if you have a motif that is really busy, it can just mess with your head. Like, this is a very busy print, and I'm looking at Dexter, I'm looking at Pinky the Brain, and I'm not focusing on measuring all that much. All right, this is a good fit. So the next part of it is we're supposed to put a swivel hook. If you see, we're supposed to put a swivel hook and a D-ring. So before I set these, I think it's a really good idea to dry fit these first and set them first, so you're not trying to awkwardly put them in. So I like to, why this is here, I'm going to dry fit this. So if I have to remove any excess, I could do it, or if I have to double fold it, I can do it. See? Okay, that fits nice. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get 2 more rivets, 2 stems and 2 caps. And why I'm showing you a little bit of a divergent from the pattern is just the way my brain works, because sometimes I can't do things based off of just measurements, because I have dyslexia, and sometimes I just get confused. And I just found it a little bit easier to do it this way. It's a small divergent, but I think it can help you focus on getting a really beautiful execution of this bag. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the rivets from the front. And I'm just going to punch a hole here. And I'm going to set my first rivet with a swivel hook. I have a Buckle Guy rivet press, and so when I set rivets, it's a pressure. I can feel it click down twice. It's like a push that I feel twice. And that's how I know they're set. So when I come over here, I'm going to release this. Make sure this is not all twisty first. And I'm going to punch a hole here. This would be a really cool area if you had like a solid print and you've had like really pretty Chicago screws that you've been wanting to use that are like, you know, that are some kind of custom ones. This will be an absolutely great place to display them. So that way you can, it just gives it just a different flair. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to start putting back together the bag. Oh, it'd help if I put the strap the right way, not the wrong way. I would have been mad. I would have been hot. I would have like, I have to remove rivets because of myself not paying attention. Make sure the strap is not all twisty. I see the cap. Where is the rivet stem? I promise you, things just disappear on me like a vortex in this room. All right, now I'm going to set some rivets. I'm trying to keep my handles as straight as possible because when you set rivets, if your handles are a little crooked, sometimes it could stay that way and it's hard to fix them. So when I'm setting them, I'm just going to move this out of the way. When I'm setting them, I'm trying to make sure that my bag handle is straight as it possibly can be. And now I'm going to set the back. And of course, it's time for my dog to bark. All right. I'm going to move this press out of the way. I'm going to connect a chain. And then we're going to put the zipper on. Oh, it's not going on good. Let me get my lighter so I can singe that ends. I think sometimes I get caught up on the ends not being singed. There we go. Okay, and then I'm going to take some double-sided tape. I'm going to put it on the back. And I think I put the tape inside the bag. And I just fold one side onto itself and then the other. I'm going to get a screwdriver and get the screw out of here real quick. Slide this in. No, I don't put glue or anything. I've never had a screw come out. And just on the off chance somebody, like, let's say someone kind of messes up their bag or whatever, and they want me to repurpose it, then I can just reuse the hardware. this is a really awesome bag minus the paper tape. So you have credit card slots, you have a slip pocket with a zipper, you have it where it closes, really lovely. You have a really cute detail. You have I like this closure detail. You have cute handles, nice back feet. You have an adorable side feature, and you learned a whole new way of putting together a bag with unusual techniques. Leave it to Alexis to bring some new skill sets to the world. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you have any questions in reference to the tutorial, please leave them down below, and I will be sure to get back to you. Until the next time I see you, stay whimsical.